Hello, my name is Israel Oyedare. I am a leadership development practitioner and scholar. If you're new here, I would like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Today, I would like to share something very important with you, and it's called developing your definitions of leadership. Your definitions of leadership influence how you perceive leadership and how you understand and how you would maximize leadership opportunities. Many people define leadership as the ability to influence other people, while some others define leadership as the ability to command or inspire people to achieve a goal. Whether you define leadership as the first or second, it is very critical that you develop your personal leadership definitions or philosophy, because this is what will help you when you're faced with making top leadership decisions and when you're given leadership opportunities. I remember when I newly resumed my PhD program, one of the first assignments I was given was to define and come up with my leadership philosophy or definitions. Today, it is my goal to teach you how and what to consider when developing your leadership definitions. I would start by giving you 3 factors that influence and determine your leadership definitions. The first is your exposure. Your exposure includes things that you expose your mind to, books you read, associations you work with, individuals you listen to, leaders you speak with, and they influence how you perceive leadership opportunities or would even define leadership. The second is education. Your education includes formal or informal education, books you are exposed to, materials you read, materials you consume, and what you actually see, what you perceive, what you learn about. The last that I would like to talk about is your experiences. Your experiences include your previous patterns, your previous experiences, things you have been exposed in the past, your background, your educational background, your family background, and all of those elements. These 3 E's influence how you have for a long time been perceiving leadership definitions. Now, when it comes to defining leadership, it is important that you understand that these 3 E's play a role in terms of your leadership definition. So it's a combination of your past experiences, education, and exposure with your present experiences, education, and exposure, and a forecast or an aspiration of your future education, experiences, and exposure. For example, I grew up in a suburban location in Nigeria where we had everything we wanted, but then my most important asset was my mind. So as a young boy, I would sit imagining things, doing things that was way beyond my circumstance or my context at the time. And that inspired me to embrace the leadership definition that leadership is about taking people from where they are to where they could be in the future. And it also inspired me to start a non-profit organization that is focused on reaching out and teaching leadership to young Africans. What are your experiences, education, and exposure, and how have they influenced your leadership ideologies? In fact, leadership scientists believe that these 3 E's, that's your education, your experiences, and exposure, in your implicit leadership theory. An implicit leadership theory include your mental pattern and model of leadership, how you perceive leadership, how you decide if a leader is performing or not, and how you interpret leadership behaviors. Now, before we move to the main thing I'm going to talk about, which is defining your leadership, I'm going to share some pillars in which your definition of leadership should be governed by. The first is love. Every definition of leadership should be from the love perspective, You should define leadership with the end point that it is about bettering the lives of others and demonstrating love. The second is people-centered. Your definition of leadership should be more of people-centered than process-centered. Your definition of leadership should be more of people-centered than process-centered. The end point of your leadership definition should be about satisfying and meeting the needs of people, taking people from where they are to where they could be, instilling hope and possibilities in the minds of people. The third pillar is service. Service includes making sure that you develop methods, processes that alleviates the lives of people and take them to their desired destination. And the last pillar is purpose. Purpose include leading and defining or coming up with your definition from a conviction perspective. So your definition should have these 4 pillars: love, service, purpose, and people-centeredness. Now, how do you come up or how do you develop your leadership definition? The first is to consider where you're coming from. Like I mentioned earlier, what were your 3 E's? And what would you like to change? What would you like to see in the future? Write this down. Write down what you envisage or what you envision your 3 E's to become, and how you think it will be for other people. And that is where your definition of leadership begins. Today, I implore you to spend some time to develop your personal definition of leadership. It's not enough to embrace or adopt other people's definition of leadership. Rather, spend quality time in understanding and coming up with your personal definition of leadership. As a reminder, my personal definition of leadership is to take people from where they are to where they could be in the nearest future. Once again, I would like to thank you for listening to this YouTube video. Please subscribe and share with your friends who may be interested in understanding more about leadership. Thank you.